I came on because it seemed to me that you and Anna really do your homework. And when you get passionate about something, you're talking about facts. You're talking about empirical data that supports the positions you're on. And I respect people that do their homework.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And right back at you. And so, look, when you came on, we had a perfectly great conversation, rational conversation. So why do I get worked up? Well, there's things that you should get worked up about. And
Of
so
course.
here, I'll give you an example of be getting worked up, but then getting to peace, which is
So Cenk recently went on Dr. Phil's podcast and he actually destroyed Dr. Phil on Israel and Palestine in the discussion. However, something was very different and unique this time. Cenk was actually very respectful and not that emotional like the way he usually gets, which is very entertaining. But it was kind of refreshing to see Cenk in a very calm tone talk about Israel Palestine with Dr. Phil. And Dr. Phil reciprocated the respect. I thought it was a very good conversation, and I think you'll enjoy it as well. So hope you enjoyed this clip. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Now let's continue.
so on the issue of Israel, I get very, passionate. And so sometimes somebody will call me a name and they'll say, okay, now we're on. And now we go to Warrior Cenk and now we're fighting, right? But I did this debate at UCLA about Israel. And at the end, I said, if you take away from this that you should hate Israel, you got the exact wrong message. Okay, so our efforts at peace are so that we don't hate each other. So if you are driving more hatred on both sides, you're never going to get to peace. The goal is peace. The goal is not one side winning, right? Then when you look at American politics and culture, wait a minute, why don't we do the same thing? Now, I've been a warrior for a long time, and I think our side needed warriors. I thought we were too soft and quiet, got steamrolled by the right wing 20 years ago, 10 years ago, etc. But now, for God's sake, we need some peacemakers.
I couldn't agree more. Look, when you're talking about things like a huge ally of America, which is Israel, their most important ally in the world for sure, they're an important ally for America for sure. They get attacked on October 7th, and it's not long after that the sentiment started seeming to turn against Israel. I mean, for a time, everybody was like, oh my God, horrible atrocities here. But then it started to turn against Israel because a lot of people in the Gaza Strip were losing their lives, and people were going, oh, that's horrible. And of course it is. War is terrible. Now, this has gone on for a long, long time, and there's a ceasefire and apparently a hostage deal. What do you think about that?
Well, my first point over here is why is Israel such a big ally? Like think about it realistically in a practical manner. What are we gaining from that friendship, that relationship? I feel like Israel is benefiting a lot more from us than we're benefiting from them. And Donald Trump always talks about the uneven trade deals we have with all of these different countries. What is our deal with Israel? Why are they getting so much benefit, so much money, so many weapons and power, all this stuff from us, and we're not really getting much in return? I think it's a very unbalanced trade.
Yeah, look, it's not about the people, it's about the governments. And so Benjamin Netanyahu is not to be trusted. There's no way that he means that deal. And to be fair to him, he said it right afterwards. He's like, this is not going to hold. But he said it in Hebrew. That one he didn't say in English. And he said, we reserve the right to bomb them anytime we like. Well, that's not a peace deal. That's not a real ceasefire. And so, look, if we're being honest, and that's what I do, money in politics controls everything. Yeah.
Well, you said it's between governments. Is Hamas a government?
Well, they're in a strange middle ground, right? Because they did actually win an election, but then they canceled elections. So then once you cancel elections, are you a legitimate government or not? But look, whenever you have an occupation, what it does is it breeds radicalism, because you don't have any real power. Any moderate is seen like a collaborator. So if you're more radical, you're going to get more power. So that's why you got to get to peace. So Israel did a peace deal with Egypt. It worked. It's worked ever since. Peace works. And at the time, people said, no way, Egypt will never follow through. They'll keep bombing us. They'll keep attacking us. Well, they were wrong. The peacemakers, Jimmy Carter was right. Anwar Sadat was right. Menachem Begin was right. So in terms of Israel, they have kind of two things. One, stop killing those folks. Here, I'll give you an analogy, Dr. Phil. So it's like a nerd came up to the biggest football player on the team, and he did something bad to him. He kicked him in the shin. And we go, hey, what'd you do that for? Or he kicked him somewhere worse. Now, that guy, the big guy on the football team, has been on top of this little nerd and punched him in the face about 45 times. And the rest of us are going, please, you got to stop punching him. This is brutal. You have to stop. And it doesn't help Israel. It doesn't help the Palestinians. It doesn't help America. And then the last thing is, I'm a populist. So sorry, but we've given $300 billion to Israel. Enough. It's too much. And by the way, they're a grown-up country now. They're strong. They got the strongest military in the Middle East. They have paid family leave. They have universal health care. We don't have either one of those things.
They also have a budget surplus where we're out here in a huge deficit. So yeah, maybe Israel should give us some money. How's that? How's that for a trade deal?
They have one of the strongest economies there. You got this. You could do it on your own.
Well, in your analysis,
First of all, I do want to say that Cenk actually gave a pretty good analogy of the little nerd and the football player. I would also add to that and say that Israel's like a 36-year-old son still living with his parents. Like, dude, you're grown up. You have a great military. You have a great budget. You have a surplus. You have paid family leave. You have all of these benefits. Your country's doing fine. Go out on your own. Fight your own battles. You don't need us anymore.
who was the kicking in the shins?
So the nerd, the little guy, comes in and kicks the big guy in the shin. Okay.
Yeah.
And so he's got a right to hit him back.
So,
But at
but
the
in your
same
analogy,
time,
who was the shin kicker?
the Palestinians.
Oh, come on. That's so easy. Come on, Dr. Phil. How'd you not get that one?
Yeah. And was that October 7th?
Yeah.
Wow. That pretty much trivializes what happened on October 7th, doesn't it?
No, because it's an analogy. Just punching the nerd in the face for 45 times also trivializes what happened at Gaza, which
I think that's a perfectly fine analogy. If you look at it, the amount of people Israel killed since October 7th is enormous compared to the kick in the shin. They literally punched this guy's face 45 times since then. And if Dr. Phil doesn't realize that, then I think he's not seeing the other side. He's misinformed. He's uninformed, maybe.
is utter slaughter and destruction.
Yeah.
So,
But they had a right to defend themselves,
of course,
to retaliate. Do you think that when Hamas did what they did on October 7th, that they could predict what was going to happen?
so I can't read the minds of Hamas, and I'm opposed to Hamas.
I know you are.
Yeah, and I think
I
that
don't want to characterize you as in any way endorsing what Hamas did on October 7th,
yeah.
because I know you don't.
Yeah. So look, nobody ever talks about the whole context of the situation. So the reality is that 5.5 million Palestinians have been occupied by Israel for 57 long years, and so no one would tolerate being occupied at all, let alone for 57 years. And the analogy I often use is Texas. So if somebody came and occupied Texas, do you think Texas might fight back? Do you think the citizens might fight back? And especially if you took away any opportunity to do it in a legitimate way, do you think maybe an insurgency would rise that others would call terrorism, right? So now that doesn't justify the terrorism, but it just explains to you how we got here. So 57 years, so then Hamas does something terrible in return, okay? And then Israel goes, oh, you want to see terrible? We'll show you terrible, and levels the whole place. So, but what Israel doesn't understand is that they are Goliath. For all of Jewish history, they have been David, and they have been abused, and they have been traumatized, and I don't know people that have suffered more, right? But they're misunderstanding the current situation. They're no longer David. They're Goliath, plus they've got even bigger Goliath behind them. And they're beating up on these folks when they got to let them go.
Okay, but you just said a really important word. You just said but.
Mm-hmm.
You just said for all of this time, they have been David. But that means forget everything I just said. I'm going to now tell you what I really mean.
No, it doesn't.
Now they're Goliath.
No, it just means the situation has changed.
It has.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Phil's not wrong. I always say that too. Whatever you said before the but, it just goes away. But in this case, Dr. Phil, it does go away because, yes, they were David for all these centuries and whatever Cenk is talking about. But all that's gone now. Today, they are powerful. And in the Middle East, they're probably the most powerful.
Changed. I'm saying you can't forget all of that time. And I don't want to get into a yeah, but. The situation is complex, and the Palestinians have been offered peace accords, and all different kinds of opportunities to change this occupation circumstance time and time and time again. We can go back and forth about that. My point is that there is no moral equivalent to what happened on October 7th.
I actually
And
totally disagree. I think what Israel
What a silly thing to say
has done since is
by Dr. Phil, obviously.
far, far worse, and it's empirical. So they've killed 62,000 now. Hamas killed 1,200. My heart breaks for that 1,200. There was kids in there. There was terrible things that were done in there. Now Israel has done every one of those things, but times 60. So don't tell me that Israel is more moral. I would argue they are more immoral. And especially when you're Goliath, you have a responsibility to tread a little bit more carefully. And Israel has done the exact opposite. And remember, they're the ones who started it by occupying them in the first place. There's not a single Texan that would ever tolerate what Israel has done to the Palestinians.
well, we could go over the number of times that Israel has been attacked. And when you say that they have done the same or worse, I don't know of an aggressor that has gone to the lengths that Israel has gone to, dropping leaflets, warning people, get out of this area, get out of this area, get out of this area.
Could you imagine someone kicking you out of your house and then they just put a paper on your door saying, hey, we're going to take over this house, get out of here. And you just being okay with that? Like, oh, so kind of you for doing that. See, the leaflet thing, I never understood. Like, that's so funny. It sounds like something out of a cartoon.
Because we're coming after the aggressors. To me, they have gone to extreme lengths to try and protect civilian life. But if you have people that come across and assassinate women, children, and infants in their cribs, and then run back and hide in populous areas, schools, hospitals, and tunnels, and say, well, I'm now in a neighborhood, so you can't come after me, that's violating the rules of war. That's violating every possible measure of warfare that you can possibly do. You can't.
Well, Dr. Phil, look, I wouldn't call throwing leaflets and making announcements extreme measures, that they went to extreme measures to protect these lives. I wouldn't call that extreme measures. And also, I actually think that killing women and children, those are against the rules of war.
Do that and expect, okay, so I get away with it. That's not going to happen.
Okay, so you're turning me back into the warrior, Cenk. Okay, but let me try to handle it a different way. Can I get you to see it from the other perspective? Okay, so I hear what you're saying about the Israeli perspective. Well, these guys hit me. What do you want me to do? And I have a literal answer to that. I was asked, on October 8th or whenever I went on the first show afterwards, I said, yeah, you should use special forces like we did to get bin Laden. Is it riskier? Of course it is. But as Goliath, you have a responsibility, but you're still going after them. So there are real ways you could do military, you could do economic, you could do diplomatic. Israel has infinite power over the Palestinians. They control their lives completely and utterly. They could kill them at any moment, and they do. And the things that you described, they don't do that anymore at all. They're using an AI program called Where's Daddy? They have no idea if it's the right guy, but they wait till he gets home so that they kill his family with him. It's disgusting and deeply immoral. I think they're a terrorist state, and I think they do terrorism far worse than anything I've seen from the Palestinians. Now,
it's a different level of arrogance and hubris. Like, what type of arrogance and what little value do you have for the Palestinians when you have this AI software and you call it Where's Daddy? Like, it's shameful.
having said all that, okay, so I'm a bad guy. If you're from Israel's perspective, you go, I don't like that. He's saying mean things about us, and we got every right to occupy these people and keep them as our slaves for 57 long, brutal years, and I'll do it for 500 more years because I'm superior to them. That's how I view Israel. And so I'm not a friend. I'm not like in the sense of what they're doing today. My God, they do a peace deal. I love Israel. Let's go together. And I want it to be beautiful, safe haven for Jews. They deserve it, etc. But can I get you to see the Palestinian perspective? How long do you want me to be occupied? How long do you want me to live under the thumb of a different people? How long would you accept that? What would you do that was different? And they've tried everything. They've gone to the UN, just like Israel did, rebuffed. They've tried diplomacy, rebuffed. They try everything, rebuffed, because Israel has infinite power because it controls America.
I can look at it from Palestinians' point of view, and I hate the loss of life in Palestine. I absolutely hate the loss of life in Palestine. I think when Hamas made the attack they did on October 7th, they put a sequence of events into play that they knew was going to happen. They don't value life, they value death. And I think they put all of those people in harm's way. They knew what they were doing when they did it. They're responsible for what's happening in Gaza Strip when they did what they did. They knew what was going to happen when they did it. So it's happening. And now this peace accord, will it hold? Netanyahu is, I suppose, skeptical of it when you're dealing with people in power whose prime directive is you be dead. It's hard to negotiate with people who are oriented to wipe you off the face of the earth.
Who's killing more people though? Like it's as simple as that. And again, I want to reiterate that I do appreciate the respectful conversation between Dr. Phil and Cenk. I feel like too many of these debates are just too crazy, which is entertaining, don't get me wrong. But to have a real dialogue and change minds, these are the types of conversations that we need to have. Oftentimes emotions get charged up and we don't get anywhere. So again, great conversation. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Now let's continue.
From the river to the sea, you can spin that any way you want, but that is what it is.
It's so hard not to get frustrated. I'm trying to make peace here, but Dr. Phil, look, last things on this. Number one, Netanyahu has said from the river to the sea. So don't tell me that you don't like from the river to the sea when your prime minister says it. Number two, he's actually doing river to the sea, and they're going to take Gaza, and they're going to try to take the West Bank. Number three, they've now killed 60 times the number of civilians. So how could killing 60 times the number of civilians be more morally correct than killing one time? It just doesn't make any sense. But America's only looking at it from the Israeli perspective. Oh my God, what would you do if you were attacked? Okay, but I'm asking you, what would you do if another race, country, religion, government was oppressing you for 57 years? They have to go to checkpoints. They get humiliated at every checkpoint. They have no rights at all. The settlers have killed 1,000 people in the West Bank. Nothing to do with the Gaza Strip, nothing to do with Hamas. Hamas is not in charge of the West Bank. They kill, oppress, humiliate, and then they go, I can't believe you're mad about it. Oh my God, I can't give you freedom because you don't like Israel. How were they supposed to like Israel? At what point would they have liked Israel? When they drove them from their homes in 1948? When they drove them off their land in the West Bank, the Gaza Strip? At what point, I mean, what kind of perverse logic is, I'm going to brutalize you for 60 years, but you have to love me. If you don't love me, then I'm not going to do peace with you. No, that's just saying I don't want to do peace with you. I don't want it. I want more land. And look at this. What a wonderful coincidence. Now, Trump is talking about giving them more land. Look, so the right-wing government of Israel is a plague upon this earth. And so I have tremendous sympathy for the people and the citizens of Israel. I have tremendous sympathy for Jewish people all across the world. And I think Netanyahu is putting them in more danger than I have ever seen in my life. He's not just terrible for Palestinians. He's not just terrible for Americans. He keeps taking our money over and over again. He's terrible for all Jews across the world. He's driving up anti-Semitism beyond description. He's doing all the things that people said that they would do. No, stop. You're a trope machine. Stop. And he won't stop because America enables him and keeps giving him blank check after blank check. I don't want to give another dollar to Israel until we have paid family leave. They have it, we don't. Why are we giving them money? Why don't they give us the $300 billion back?
Do you hope the peace accord holds?
Of course. I mean,
you hope the hostages are returned?
Of course.
And do you think there's a chance it will?
No, none. Israel wants that land. I guarantee you to on this show, and you'll see I'm right. They're going to go in and try to take the land because they never actually cared about anything but taking that land. And they're going to make us pay for it.
All right, well, we'll watch and see if you're right.
Yep.
All right, you said it here.
Mm-hmm.